The coffee mug shattered against the marble kitchen floor at exactly 6:47 a.m., sending ceramic shards and dark liquid cascading across Olivia Sterling's carefully planned morning. She stared at the mess, her presentation notes now floating in a puddle of her only decent coffee, and felt the familiar twist of panic in her chest. Today was the day she would finally meet Sebastian Cross, the mysterious new CEO of Sterling and Associates who had acquired the company 3 months ago. The man who, according to whispered office gossip, could end careers with a single disapproving glance. Perfect, she muttered, grabbing paper towels while simultaneously checking her weather app. Rain. Of course it was raining. The kind of persistent Seattle drizzle that turned perfectly styled hair into something resembling a wet animal. Her phone buzzed with a text from Luna, her best friend and office confidant. Emergency pep talk available if needed. Hey, you've got this, babe. Olivia smiled despite her nerves. Luna had been her anchor since starting at Sterling and Associates, helping her navigate the corporate maze and decode the unspoken rules of office politics. Without Luna's insider knowledge, Olivia would have been lost in the sea of power suits and strategic meetings. 20 minutes later, she stood at the bus stop clutching an umbrella that had seen better days, its broken ribs making it look more like a wounded bird than actual protection from the elements. Her navy dress was all ready, showing signs of defeat against the persistent moisture, and her carefully chosen heels were making suspicious squeaking sounds with every step. She pulled out her phone to book a rideshare, fingers trembling slightly as she navigated the app. The estimated arrival time showed 3 minutes. Relief flooded through her as she confirmed the booking, watching the little car icon move closer on the map. But just as she pressed the final confirmation button, her phone screen went completely black.
Out. No.
She whispered frantically, pressing the power button repeatedly. Dead battery. The one morning she had forgotten to charge her phone overnight was naturally the most important morning of her professional life. The rain began falling harder, and Olivia looked around desperately. The street was busy with morning traffic, and she could barely see through the drops collecting on her glasses. Her carefully planned schedule was dissolving as quickly as her mascara. That's when she spotted it. Sleek black sedan, exactly like the one described in the rideshare app, pulling up to the curb right in front of her. Without hesitation, she yanked open the rear door and practically threw herself inside, shaking rainwater off her umbrella. "Thank goodness you're here," she gasped, settling into the leather seat that felt more expensive than anything she had ever owned. "I'm incredibly late for the most important meeting of my career. My phone just died, so I couldn't even call to update you." The driver turned slightly, and Olivia caught a glimpse of a sharp jawline and perfectly styled dark hair. He was wearing an expensive-looking charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Actually, I think there might be some confusion," he began, his voice deep and measured, with a hint of an accent she couldn't quite place. "Oh, please, don't tell me you're going to lecture me about punctuality," Olivia interrupted, pulling off her damp cardigan. "I know I'm a mess. My alarm went off late. I spilled coffee everywhere, and I'm pretty sure I put on 2 different earrings this morning." She paused to check her reflection in the window. "Yep, definitely 2 different earrings. One's a pearl. The other's a small silver hoop. It's like my jewelry had an identity crisis." Sebastian Cross had been sitting in his car reviewing quarterly reports before his first official day. As CEO of Sterling and Associates, when the rain-soaked woman burst through his door like a tiny hurricane, he should have corrected her immediately, explained that she had the wrong vehicle. But something about her frantic energy and genuine panic made him pause. There was something refreshing about her complete lack of pretense, so different from the calculated interactions he was used to in the corporate world. Everyone else treated him like he might explode at any moment, but this woman was just being authentically messily human.
Ow.
"Where exactly are we heading?" he asked instead, deciding to play along for reasons he couldn't quite explain to himself. Sterling and Associates building downtown, the tall glass one, with the horrible modern art sculpture out front that looks like a giant pretzel, having an existential crisis, Olivia replied, digging through her purse. "Have you been there before?" Sebastian knew the building intimately, considering he owned it. "I'm familiar with the location. It's great, and I'm sorry about your car getting wet. I tried to close the umbrella before getting in, but it has a mind of its own. It's like it actively wants to cause maximum chaos." She gestured helplessly at the small puddle forming on his pristine floor mats. As Sebastian navigated through the morning traffic, he found himself oddly charmed by her nervous chatter. Most people who knew his identity either cowered in fear or tried to impress him with carefully rehearsed conversation. This woman was just being herself, unfiltered and genuine. "You know what's crazy?" Olivia continued, peering out the rain-streaked window. "There's this coffee shop 3 blocks from the office that charges $7 for a simple latte. $7. I could buy an entire bag of coffee beans for that price. But somehow I keep going back because they draw little hearts in the foam, and I'm apparently weak-willed when it comes to caffeinated artwork." "Are you always this quiet?" she asked after a moment. "Not that I'm complaining." Most rideshare drivers either want to discuss politics or explain why their music taste is superior to everyone else's. "You have this mysterious professional thing going on. It's refreshing." Sebastian found himself almost smiling. "I prefer listening. That's a rare quality. My friend Luna says I talk enough for 3 people, which is probably true. She's the one who convinced me to take this job in the first place. Said it would be good for my career to work at a prestigious company, even if the new CEO has a reputation for being somewhat intimidating." "Intimidating how?" Sebastian asked, genuinely curious about his own reputation. "Oh, you know the type. Brilliant, successful, probably has ice water in his veins instead of blood. The kind of person who's never had a hair out of place or spilled coffee on important documents." Luna heard from someone in HR that he's never been seen smiling. Ever. Like he's allergic to human emotion. Sebastian's eyebrow raised slightly at this description, but he remained silent. "This is definitely the nicest rideshare car I've ever been in." Olivia settled back into the leather seat, finally starting to relax as they made good time through the city. "It smells like expensive cologne and success. I feel like I should be drinking champagne instead of the lukewarm coffee I grabbed from the office break room yesterday." She looked around at the immaculate interior. "You mind me asking what you do when you're not driving people around? Because this car suggests you might have a very successful side business." "I work in business management," Sebastian replied, which was technically true. "That explains the suit and the car and the general aura of having your life completely together." Olivia laughed. "Meanwhile, I'm over here with mismatched earrings and a presentation folder that's slightly damp from my umbrella mishap." They approached the Sterling and Associates building. Olivia began gathering her things and attempting to fix her wind-blown hair. "Could you drop me at the side entrance, please? I'm hoping to slip in without drawing too much attention to my slightly disheveled state." Sebastian pulled up to the curb with perfect precision. "Here we are. You're a lifesaver. Seriously." Olivia fumbled for her wallet. "I'll give you 5 stars as soon as I can charge my phone." "What's your name for the rating?" "Sebastian," he replied simply. "Well, Sebastian, you've officially saved my career. Or at least prevented me from showing up to the most important meeting of my life looking like I swam here." She opened the door, then turned back. "Thank you, really. You're the best rideshare driver I've ever had." As she hurried toward the building entrance, Sebastian watched her go, noting the determined set of her shoulders despite her obvious nervousness. Something about Olivia Sterling had completely disrupted his carefully planned morning, and he found himself looking forward to their inevitable second encounter. He had no idea that encounter would come sooner than either of them expected. Olivia rushed through the lobby, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she tried to make it to the elevator before anyone noticed her slightly frazzled appearance. The Sterling and Associates building always made her feel small, with its soaring ceilings and intimidating corporate art that seemed to judge her from every angle. She made it to her floor with 2 minutes to spare, now quickly touching up her lipstick and smoothing her hair before joining her colleagues in the conference room. "You look like you've been running," Luna whispered as Olivia slipped into the seat beside her. "Traffic was insane, but I had the most amazing rideshare driver. Super professional, great car, and he didn't judge me for talking nonstop about overpriced coffee and my jewelry coordination issues." Olivia whispered back, Gesturing to her mismatched earrings, Luna raised an eyebrow. Jewelry coordination issues? Don't ask. The conference room gradually filled with employees, all buzzing with anticipation about meeting their new CEO. Olivia tried to focus on organizing her notes, but her mind kept drifting back to Sebastian, the mysterious rideshare driver who had saved her morning. There had been something about him, something that made her feel oddly calm despite her panic. At exactly 9 a.m., the conference room door opened, and conversations immediately died down. Olivia looked up from her papers, expecting to see some assistant or HR representative, but instead found herself staring directly into a pair of familiar dark eyes. Sebastian Cross. Her rideshare driver walked into the room wearing the same charcoal suit. But now she could see the subtle details she had missed before. The platinum watch, the perfectly tailored fit, the confident way he commanded attention without saying a word. "Good morning, everyone," he said, his voice carrying easily across the room. "I'm Sebastian Cross, your new CEO."
Olivia's presentation.
Folder slipped from her hands and hit the floor with a soft thud that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. Around the room, her colleagues were focused on their new boss. But Sebastian's gaze found hers immediately, and she saw the hint of amusement in his expression. "I hope everyone had a pleasant commute this morning," he continued, still looking directly at Olivia. "I know how challenging city traffic can be, especially when unexpected weather disrupts our carefully planned schedules." The color drained from Olivia's face as the full realization hit her. She had spent 20 minutes complaining to the CEO of her company about overpriced coffee, discussing her wardrobe malfunctions, and calling him the best rideshare driver she'd ever had. Luna noticed her friend's expression and whispered, "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," Olivia whispered back. "I think I just became a cautionary tale about always checking your rideshare driver's identity." As Sebastian began his presentation about company goals and new initiatives, Olivia tried to process what had just happened. The mysterious professional driver who had listened patiently to her nervous rambling was actually Sebastian Cross, Billionaire, CEO and her new boss, and from the amused expression on his face, he was clearly planning to make this morning's case of mistaken identity much more interesting than a simple workplace embarrassment. Sebastian's presentation was masterful, revealing a strategic mind that had transformed struggling companies across 3 continents. He spoke about innovation, employee development, and creating a culture where talent could flourish regardless of background. But every few minutes, his eyes would find Olivia's, and she would feel that same electric current she had experienced. In the car, our company's strength lies not in hierarchy, but in the authentic voices of our team members, Sebastian said, his gaze lingering on Olivia. Sometimes the most valuable insights come from unexpected sources, from people who aren't afraid to speak honestly about what they observe. Olivia felt her cheeks burn. Was he talking about her coffee shop observations? The meeting continued for another 30 minutes, but Olivia heard approximately none of it. Her brain was stuck in an endless loop of mortification, replaying every single thing she had said during that car ride. She had called his building's art sculpture a pretzel, having an existential crisis. She had described him as having ice water in his veins instead of blood. When the meeting finally ended, employees began filing out, chattering excitedly about their new CEO. Olivia tried to blend in with the crowd, hoping to escape unnoticed, but Sebastian's voice cut through the noise. "Miss Sterling, could I speak with you for a moment?" Luna shot her a sympathetic look and whispered, "Good luck. Try not to mention any more jewelry malfunctions." Olivia approached Sebastian's position at the front of the room, her heart hammering against her ribs. Up close, without the barrier of car seats between them, she could see that he was even more imposing than she had realized. Tall, broad-shouldered, and radiating the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about dead phone batteries or spilled coffee. "Miss Sterling," he began, his tone professionally neutral, but with a hint of something that might have been amusement. "I wanted to thank you for the transportation review this morning. Very thorough feedback." "Mr. Cross, I am so incredibly sorry," Olivia blurted out. "I had no idea who you were, and my phone died, and the car looked exactly like the one from the app. I was panicking about being late." And I know that's no excuse for basically hijacking your morning, but I swear I'm not usually so completely disorganized. Ooh, Sebastian held up a hand to stop her rambling. Actually, I found your perspective quite enlightening. It's rare to get such honest feedback about company culture and coffee pricing strategies. Olivia blinked. Are you firing me? Because I understand if you're firing me, I would probably fire me. On the contrary, I have a proposition. For you, the words hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility and danger. Sebastian's dark eyes held hers, and Olivia felt something shift in the space between them, something that had nothing to do with embarrassment and everything to do with the magnetic pull she had felt in the car. What kind of proposition? Asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sebastian smiled then. It's the first genuine smile she had seen from him, and it transformed his entire face. The kind that might change both of our lives, if you're brave enough to say yes. Outside the conference room windows, the rain had stopped, and weak sunlight was beginning to filter through the clouds. But inside, a different kind of storm was just beginning. 3 hours later, Olivia sat in Sebastian's office, which occupied the entire top floor and offered a panoramic view of the city. The space was minimalist and expensive, all clean lines and carefully chosen furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the Seattle skyline stretched out below, making her feel like she was floating above the world. You want me to do what exactly? She asked, staring at the folder Sebastian had placed. In front of her, I need someone to conduct a comprehensive review of our employee satisfaction and workplace efficiency. Someone who notices details that others might miss. Sebastian leaned back in his leather chair, his suit jacket unbuttoned now, revealing a crisp white shirt that emphasized his broad shoulders. Someone who can identify when earrings don't match and when coffee is overpriced. Olivia opened the folder to find detailed questionnaires, survey templates, and a timeline that would require her to interact with virtually every department in the company. The scope was staggering. This is a huge project. Why me? I've only been here 3 months because you're observant, honest, and you're not afraid to speak your mind. Those are valuable qualities in business. Sebastian stood and moved to the window, gazing out at the city below. You notice things about this company in 20 minutes that others have missed in years. I complained about coffee prices and art sculptures. You identified inefficiencies and cultural disconnects. He turned back to her, his dark eyes intense. Do you know what most employees tell me when I ask for feedback? They say everything is perfect, that I'm brilliant, they're grateful to work here. And you don't believe them? I know they're lying. Sebastian moved closer, and Olivia caught a hint of his cologne, something expensive and subtly masculine. People are terrified of me, Olivia. They see the reputation, the wealth, the power, and they forget I'm trying to build something here, something better than what came before. The way he said her name sent a shiver down her spine.
Also, you want?
Me to be your spy? I want you to be my truth teller. Sebastian sat on the edge of his desk, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. This project will give you access to every level of the company. You'll report directly to me. Weekly meetings, comprehensive analysis, and complete honesty about what you find. Olivia's mind raced. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to make a real impact and work directly with one of the most successful CEOs in the country. But something about the intensity in Sebastian's gaze suggested this was about more than just business. What's the catch? Sebastian smiled, that same devastating smile that had transformed his face in the conference room. No catch. Just a question. Are you always this suspicious of good fortune? In my experience, when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. Smart woman. Sebastian moved back to his chair, putting distance between them, but the air still crackled with electricity. The position comes with a significant salary increase, an office on this floor, and direct access to executive meetings. You'll also travel with me to our other locations for comparative analysis. Travel with you? Is that a problem? Olivia thought about her cramped apartment, her student loans, her career that had been stagnant for months. Then she thought about the man. Across from her, dangerous and magnetic, and offering her everything she had dreamed of. When do I start? Tomorrow. But first, dinner. Excuse me? Sebastian stood and retrieved his suit jacket from the back of his chair. We need to discuss the project parameters in detail. I know a place that serves excellent coffee at reasonable prices. Despite everything, Olivia laughed. Are you asking me to dinner, Mr. Cross? I'm asking my new senior analyst to a working dinner to discuss her assignment. Sebastian's eyes held hers. What you make of it beyond that is entirely up to you. The challenge in his voice was unmistakable, and Olivia felt something reckless stir in her chest. This was dangerous territory, mixing business with the undeniable attraction that had been building between them since that morning. But as she looked at Sebastian Cross, brilliant and powerful and looking at her like she was the most fascinating puzzle he had ever encountered, she found herself nodding.
What time?
7. I'll send you the address. Sebastian moved to the door and opened it for her and Olivia. She paused in the doorway, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. Wear whatever earrings you want, matching or not. As Olivia walked back to her desk, her mind spinning with possibilities and dangers, she didn't notice Luna watching from across the office with a concerned expression. Her best friend had seen the way Sebastian Cross looked at Olivia, and she knew that look meant trouble. It's the kind of trouble that could change everything. That evening, as Olivia stood in front of her closet, trying to decide what one wore to a working dinner with a billionaire CEO who had already turned her world upside down, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The restaurant is called Meridian. Ask for the private dining room. And Olivia? Thank you for saying yes. As she stared at the message, her heart racing. Whatever game they were playing, whatever this was becoming, there was no going back now. Sebastian Cross had offered her the opportunity of a lifetime. But as she selected a black dress that was professional enough for business and elegant enough for whatever else the evening might bring, she suspected he was offering her much more than just a job. The question was whether she was brave enough to take it. Meridian was the kind of restaurant Olivia had only read about in magazines. Hidden on the top floor of a converted warehouse, it offered intimate lighting, exposed brick walls, and a view of Elliott Bay that made the city sparkle like scattered diamonds. The private dining room Sebastian had reserved was a glass-enclosed space that felt both exclusive and dangerously intimate. You're late, Sebastian said as she was escorted to the table, but his tone held warmth rather than accusation. Lost, your directions were terrible. Olivia settled into the chair across from him, trying not to notice how the candlelight played across his features, making him look less like a corporate titan and more like a man who could steal her breath. With a single glance, my apologies. I'm used to having drivers who know the city. Speaking of which, how long have you been moonlighting as a rideshare driver? Olivia accepted the wine menu from the server, grateful for something to focus on besides the way Sebastian's shirt stretched across his chest. That was my first and last time. Sebastian's eyes crinkled with amusement. Though I have to admit, it was the most entertaining morning I've had in years. They ordered dinner and wine, falling into an easy conversation that felt nothing like a business meeting. Sebastian was different here, away from the office and the weight of his reputation. He was still commanding, still magnetic. But there was a vulnerability in his eyes when he talked about his vision for the company. His frustration with corporate culture, his genuine desire to create something meaningful. You know what I can't figure out? Olivia said, halfway through her second glass of wine, and feeling bold enough to voice the question that had been nagging at her all day. Why you really want me for this project? There are dozens of consultants you could hire, people with MBAs and years of experience. Why the woman who hijacked your car and insulted your building's art? Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, swirling the wine in his glass. Outside the windows, the city lights reflected on the water, creating a shimmering path that seemed to lead directly to their table. Because you saw me, he said finally. Not Sebastian Cross, billionaire CEO. Not the reputation, or the power, or the intimidation factor. You saw a man in an expensive suit who was willing to drive a stranger to work, in the rain, and you treated me like a human being? The honesty in his voice caught Olivia off guard. Sebastian, Do you know how long it's been since someone talked to me the way you did this morning? Without calculation, without agenda, without fear? Sebastian leaned forward, his eyes intense in the candlelight. You were just yourself. It's authentic, honest. A little chaotic, completely refreshing. I was a mess. You were real. Sebastian reached across the table and covered her hand with his. The contact sent electricity shooting up her arm. I've spent the last 10 years surrounded by people who tell me what they think I want to hear. Board members, employees even. Friends, everyone wants something from me. Everyone has an angle, and you think I don't. I think you want to do good work and pay your student loans and maybe find a coffee shop that doesn't charge $7 for a latte. Sebastian's thumb traced across her knuckles, a simple touch that made her breath catch. I think you're ambitious but not ruthless, intelligent but not calculating. I think you could help me build something better than what exists now. Olivia stared at their joined hands, trying to process the intensity of his words and the heat of his touch. This is dangerous, Sebastian. Whatever this is between us, it complicates everything. Only if we let it. You're my boss now. I work for you. You work with me. There's a difference. Sebastian's fingers tightened around hers. What happens outside the office is between us and no one else. The server appeared to refill their wine glasses, and Sebastian reluctantly released her hand. But the air between them remained charged, full of possibility and promise, and the kind of tension that could either build something beautiful or destroy everything they touched. Tell me about your family, Olivia said, desperate to shift the conversation to safer ground. Sebastian's expression shuddered slightly. Not much to tell. My parents died when I was 16. Car accident. I was raised by my grandfather, who taught me that business was war and sentiment was weakness. I'm sorry, don't be. It made me who I am. Sebastian's voice held an edge now, a hint of the ruthless businessman who had built an empire from nothing. Though I sometimes wonder what I might have become if I'd had different teachers. You could still become that person, with the right influence, perhaps. Sebastian's eyes found hers again, and the vulnerability was back, mixed with something deeper and more dangerous. What about you, family? Small town in Oregon, parents who think my job is one step above witchcraft, and a sister who's convinced I'm going to end up alone with 17 cats. Olivia smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. They love me, but they don't understand why I left. Why I needed more than what our town could offer. And what did you need? Everything. Adventure, challenge, the chance to matter, to build. Something important instead of just existing. Olivia met his gaze. To feel alive? And do you feel alive? The question hung between them, loaded with meaning. Olivia thought about her morning commute, her cramped apartment, her quiet weekends, spent reading alone. Then she thought about the electricity she had felt in Sebastian's car. The way her heart raced when he looked at her, the sense that her entire life had shifted on its axis in the space of a single day. I do now. Sebastian's smile was slow and devastating. Good, because what I'm about to propose will require you to be fully alive, Olivia Sterling. Fully present, fully committed, and fully prepared to change everything you thought you knew about yourself. What are you proposing? Sebastian signaled for the check, his movements deliberate and controlled. Come with me to Vancouver next week. Our acquisition there is struggling, and I need someone to help me understand why. Someone who can see what others miss, who can talk to employees without intimidating them. A business trip, a chance to prove that this morning wasn't a fluke. That you really can be the truth teller I need. Sebastian stood and moved around the table to pull out her chair. In an opportunity to explore whatever this is between us, away from the complications of the office. As they waited for the elevator, Olivia felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Saying yes meant stepping into a world she wasn't. Prepared for risking everything she had worked for on the possibility of something extraordinary. Saying no meant safety, predictability, and the slow death of dreams she hadn't even realized she still carried. The elevator arrived, and Sebastian stepped aside to let her enter first. As the doors closed, trapping them in the small space together, he turned to face her. I need an answer by tomorrow morning, Olivia. Not for the company, not for the project, but for me. His voice was rough with honesty, Because if you say yes, everything changes. Hey, for both of us. The elevator descended toward the lobby, carrying them away from the magical cocoon of the restaurant and back toward the real world, where bosses and employees weren't supposed to look at each other the way Sebastian was looking at her. But as Olivia met his gaze in the polished metal doors, she realized the real world had already shifted beyond recognition. The only question now was whether she was brave enough to step into the new one Sebastian was offering. Olivia stood at her apartment window at dawn, watching the city wake up below while she wrestled with the decision that would reshape her entire life. Sebastian's proposal echoed in her mind, not just the business opportunity, but the promise of something deeper, more dangerous, more real than anything she had ever experienced. Her phone buzzed with a text from Luna. Emergency coffee needed. Spill everything about last night, and I mean everything. 20 minutes later, they sat in their usual cafe, the one that charged reasonable prices and drew hearts in the foam. Luna listened with growing alarm as Olivia recounted the dinner, the job offer, and the electric tension that had crackled between her and Sebastian all evening. Olivia, please tell me you're not seriously considering this, Luna said, stirring her latte with more force than necessary. He's Sebastian Cross, billionaire, your boss. This is like a cautionary tale waiting to happen, or it's the chance of a lifetime. It's both, and that's what makes it terrifying. Luna leaned forward, her expression serious.
I seen what?
Happens when powerful men decide they want something. They take it, they consume it, and when they're done, they move on to the next shiny object. Sebastian isn't like that. How do you know? You've known him for exactly one day. Olivia stared out the cafe window, watching people hurry past on their way to jobs that didn't set their souls on fire. 2 lives that were safe and predictable, and slowly killing them. Because he saw me, Luna. Really saw me. Not just the person. I pretend to be at work, but all of me. The messy, chaotic, ambitious parts that I usually hide. That's what makes him dangerous. That's what makes him irresistible. Luna sighed, recognizing the stubborn set of Olivia's jaw. If you do this, if you take this leap, promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't lose yourself in him. I promise. Olivia squeezed her friend's hand. But Luna, what if losing? Myself is exactly what I need to do to find who I'm really supposed to be. An hour later, Olivia stood outside Sebastian's office, a resignation letter from her old position in one hand and her answer in her heart. His assistant waved her through, and she found him standing at his window, silhouetted against the morning. Light, like a figure from her dreams. Good morning, Olivia, turned. And she saw the tension in his shoulders, the careful control that didn't quite hide his uncertainty. Have you made your decision? Instead of answering with words, Olivia walked to his desk and placed her resignation letter on top of his morning reports. When do we leave for Vancouver? Sebastian's smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. Tomorrow morning. First class? Naturally. Naturally. Olivia moved closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. Sebastian, I need you to understand something. What's that? I'm not doing this just for the job. I'm not doing it just for the money or the opportunity or the chance to advance my career. She took a breath, gathering courage. I'm doing it because when I'm with you, I feel like the person I was always meant to be. Brave, capable, alive in ways I never knew were possible. Sebastian's hands came up to frame her face, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones with reverent gentleness. Olivia Sterling, you magnificent, terrifying woman, do you have any idea what you've done to my carefully ordered life? Down, brought it to life. Sebastian's voice was rough with emotion. Spent 10 years building walls, keeping people at distance, never letting anyone close enough to matter. And then you burst into my car like a hurricane. All honest chaos and beautiful authenticity, and suddenly nothing else makes sense except you. This is insane. We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar and you talk when you're nervous and you're brave enough to hijack a stranger's car when you're desperate. Sebastian's forehead touched hers, their breath mingling in the space between them. I know you care about overpriced lattes, because you understand. The value of money, and you notice mismatched earrings because details matter to you. I know you left everything familiar behind to chase something bigger than yourself, and that kind of courage is rarer than you think. Sebastian. I know that when you laugh, really laugh, it changes the entire energy of a room. I know that. You see beauty in chaos and find meaning in small moments. And I know that in 24 hours, you've made me want things I never thought I deserved. His voice dropped to a whisper. Tell me I'm not alone in this madness. Olivia's answer was to rise on her toes and press her lips to his. A kiss that tasted like coffee and courage and the promise of everything they could build together. Sebastian's arms came around her, pulling her closer as the kiss deepened. Months of lonely nights and careful control dissolving in the heat between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sebastian rested his chin on top of her head. Vancouver's going to be interesting. Just Vancouver? Olivia pulled back to look at him, seeing her own wonder reflected in his eyes. Vancouver, New York, London, wherever this company takes us. Sebastian's smile held a future full of possibilities. Wherever we take each other. 6 months later, Olivia stood in the same office, now decorated with plants and personal touches that made the sterile corporate space feel like home. The employee satisfaction report she had compiled lay finished on Sebastian's desk, documenting the transformation of a company culture from fear-based hierarchy to collaborative innovation, but the real transformation was in the man who entered. The office carrying 2 cups of perfectly priced coffee from their favorite cafe 3 blocks away. The one that had become their morning ritual before the chaos of corporate demands took over. How did the board meeting go? Olivia asked, accepting her cup and noting the heart drawn in the foam. They approved the expansion into sustainable technologies. 3 new facilities, 200 new jobs, and a company direction that prioritizes people over profit margins. Sebastian set down his coffee and pulled her into his arms, a gesture that had become as natural as breathing. Your recommendations were brilliant as usual. Our recommendations were a team, remember? The best team I've ever been part of. Sebastian's eyes held the warmth that had replaced the ice water Olivia had once imagined flowing through his veins. Though I have to admit, I'm slightly biased toward my business partner. Just slightly, completely, hopelessly, irrevocably biased. Sebastian's kiss tasted like forever and coffee and the kind of love that grew from genuine partnership, especially when she wears mismatched earrings. Olivia laughed, touching the pearl in her left ear and the silver hoop in her right. Some things never change. Thank God for that. Sebastian spun her around, both of them laughing like the successful, slightly ridiculous, completely in love partners they had become. Act. Because a little beautiful chaos is exactly what my perfectly ordered life needed. Outside the office windows, Seattle sparkled in the afternoon sun. A city full of coffee shops and possibilities and second chances for people brave enough to climb into the wrong car and discover it was exactly where they belonged. They had. Started with a case of mistaken identity and built something true. A love story disguised as a business partnership, a meeting of minds that had become a meeting of souls. A rainy morning encounter that had grown into a lifetime of shared dreams. Some mistakes, Olivia thought as Sebastian kissed her again, were actually destiny wearing a disguise. The end to like this video if the story touched your heart. Subscribe for more emotional tales and share with someone who believes in the power of true love, and let us know in the comments. We love connecting with our global community of romance lovers.